we start our Q&A with the directors? Did you notice, those of you who are from this area, did you notice on that map, Sidney, Ohio, Urbana, Springfield? I got a little confused as I was looking at the map. I didn't know whether we were looking at Illinois or Ohio. But I could see why this movie resonated so much with Roger, because it reminded me when we would come here to visit his Uncle Bill and Aunt Mary and just some of the neighbors, and it just reminded me a lot. I know Roger really, really loves this movie. Let's give the golden thumbs to Turner and Bill Ross.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. May I? In return, we're going to do our small thing. Roger, I think, has left the building, but in his stead here, we'll present it to Chaz. We're obviously from a small town, as you've seen, and somehow it resonated with Roger. What we wanted to do for Roger is let him know that the local boys have done good and bring him a copy of the Sydney Daily News. Ebert, 45365, one of 10 best. Famous movie critic Roger Ebert has called 45365 one of the best documentaries of 2010. So. And if he should get up and about, there's also a coupon for Clancy's, which has a great hamburger, so anyway.
Okay, thank you. Do we take the, oh, you keep this? Oh, no, I keep forgetting. All right, have a seat.
Okay.
All right. And we're going to bring out to moderate the panel a special guest from the South by Southwest Film Festival. She joined us last year for the first time, and she came back because we have 3 movies in the festival that were audience favorites at the South by Southwest Film Festival. This is one of them. Natural Selection was another. Oh, and Tiny Furniture, yes. Janet Pierson. And joining Janet is Matt Singer from Ebert Presents at the Movies, although he's really IFC. Come on out. I wonder why we have 3 and not 4 mics.
We can share, it's all right.
Well, it's a privilege for me to be here to see this film that I love so much, which actually won the Grand Jury Prize, documentary prize 2 years ago at South by Southwest, which we were thrilled about. But for me to sit here in the back and watch it in this incredibly beautiful theater, seeing it on a beautiful screen projected as it should be, instead of as a programmer you watch stuff in a less than optimum fashion. So congratulations, it's great to see the film again. It's just exquisite. I have a million questions, as I assume you do, but I'm going to just start with one of the most obvious ones, the organizing principle. You know, it's an incredible wealth of footage and life and beautiful images, and it's got this incredible soul. It's just so exquisitely put together. How did you find its shape?
It was all me. It was all me. It took me a year to cut the film together, and for the first 6 months I felt very lost. We had 500 hours of footage, and I just, I know, it was horrible.
The air just got sucked out of the room.
But, you know, I started off just making, in my editing program, I just started making folders of all the different characters that we thought would probably be in the film, different locations and whatnot. And for the first 6 months, I was just sort of trying to digest all the footage. And at the end of that 6 months, I started sending Turner very rough, like, sequences or scenes, and we just started a conversation. At that time, he was living in Austin, I was living in Los Angeles, so I would just send him a DVD every week, and we just started talking. And then do you want to go into the part of, like, where it...
Sure. Bill is our principal editor, and I left him alone to get really weird, which he did, and sort of hide in his room and put this thing together. But about 6 months into it, once he had digested all of this glut of material, you know, we didn't shoot with a narrative in mind. It's not a narrative film. It's not, you know, some sort of anthropological study. It was really a collection of moments and scenes. And about 6 months into it, he sent me a 4.5-hour edit of what we had originally conceived of as the film. And it was okay. But he also sent along a DVD that said, Things I Like. And it was an hour of just beautiful clips, scenes, uncut moments. And I looked at that, and that was what we needed to do. That was what we were after in the first place. But by accident, we sort of stumbled upon it. And that's become more of a philosophy for what we've been doing, is just really collecting these, you know, uncut, very specific character-defining moments and scenes and pictures. And from there, we finessed it for the next 6 months. It took a year. We shot this in 2007, put it together in 2008, and Miss Pierson and her crew fortunately invited us to screen at South by Southwest and gave us a platform of privilege for people to take us seriously, which we didn't think they would or needed to. And now we're here.
Well, what had been that original concept?
It's hard, and we still talk about it. We have always been doing things like this, you know, since we were little kids, whether it was drawing portraits of each other or when our family got their first video camera shooting home movies or war epics or horror movies or filming the crazy man down the street, you know, whatever it was, we would capture it and collect it. And when we went to college, I went as a painter. I thought I was going to be a painter. And Bill said, well, I really would like to do film. And he came down and studied film, and all of our friends were filmmakers. And we kept a very small unit of people and made short films, some of which were good, some of which were not so good. And eventually started doing this thing, which propelled us to Los Angeles and jobs in the film industry, which pay well and were fine. But at a certain point into that, we realized that we weren't doing what we wanted to do, or something that was truthful to us as young people. We wanted to be creating things. And so there came a day, there was actually a specific morning, you know, I don't know if we were flying home or flying back from home, we sort of looked at each other and said, what the hell are we doing? You know, we should be doing something for ourselves. Let's make a movie. 3 months later, we were shooting. We went to, you know, what is important to us is sort of the question we asked ourselves. If we're going to do this, what's really important? And it was going home. It was something that we had thought about for our entire lives, you know, saying that we had documented things. We'd also written a lot of stories growing up about what that particular time and place in the world was like to grow up in Midwestern rural America with all of its little, you know, emotional nuances that maybe were only important to us. But we went home to make our first movie, and it wasn't, we knew ahead of time that it wasn't going to be a scripted narrative. It wasn't going to be a story about Sydney, Ohio. It wasn't going to be a History Channel documentary. It was going to be, or at least we hoped, you know, in some grandiose manner, to go back and capture a feeling. And we didn't know what that looked like. That's why we had 500 hours of footage. You know, we went there and really delved in, met people, followed every lead we could, thought about everything that meant something to us there and tried to capture it, and then digested it afterwards. And that's, you know, that's what the movie is.
How did you pick the characters in the film? How did you know, like, on any given day, here's where we're going to shoot, here's who we're going to follow? And also, did you know any of the people in the film beforehand? Are any of them personal friends, or, you know, or were they, you know, more or less strangers when the film began?
Before we went, we created sort of a generic type, like types that we wanted to hang out with. So if we're going to hang out with a cop, we had to hang out with a criminal. We wanted to hang out with, you know, the elderly. We're going to hang out with young people. But they were very generic like that. In very few instances did we know exactly that person that we wanted to spend time with. So each day we would just go out and try to find these people. And if they seemed interesting to us, we would follow them And if that sort of like burned out, we would follow the person they were hanging out with, and we would just jump all over the place. You know, if we were at, you know, a restaurant with somebody and something interesting is happening in the other end of the restaurant, we would go over and ask to hang out with them, you know. So it was very organic.
So did everybody want to be filmed? Was there a sense of...
99% of the time, everybody was pretty okay.
There haven't been a lot of TV shows filmed in Sydney, so most folks were really intrigued by what we were doing, you know, wanting to know what we were up to.
Or confused and just, you know, didn't know to tell us to go away. So.
Yeah. And another part of the question was, did we know some of the people? Well, we left in 2000, and we shot in 2007. So in a small town like that, you don't get too far removed. But a lot of those, you know, a lot of these people, are new situations that we encountered. But some of them start from starting points that we knew. You know, the local judge who's running for re-election was a friend, and also someone who was maybe in charge of guiding our future at one point. And and the sort of the troubled young man who goes to jail afterwards. When we were really little kids, you know, at 11 years old, he was my best friend. But then he went to juvenile detention and has never been out of the system. He and I still correspond through letters. He's in a supermax prison somewhere. But that's Justin. You know, that's his life. But you know, other ones like Lee, who goes down the river on the boat with his son. I was shooting downtown one morning and found him in a local bar, and he said, you know, "What's with the camera, Turner?" And I told him what I was. He didn't know my name, I guess, yet. Hey, man, what's with the camera, you know? And then he said, "Well, you should be following me. Shit, we'll go see my Uncle Walt. I haven't seen him in 10 years, you know?" So it was very organic, as Bill said, and we just took every opportunity that was presented to us. It was a great learning lesson, really.
Because you guys do such an amazing job, as Janet was saying, of weaving these stories together, connecting them with trains and the radio station and the sound, I think it can almost look like you have a huge, like you're everywhere at once, that you have this huge crew. Maybe you should explain just how big or how small the crew of this film was.
Well, we were everywhere once. Maybe not everywhere at once.
Not at once. Yeah. You were everywhere once.
This is the crew. Yeah. It's nothing more than this, and it remains nothing more than this. You know, again, we had a really amazing opportunity, for whatever reason was presented to us, when we cold submitted to every festival in the world that we knew, just hoping that somebody would watch our film. South by Southwest picked it up. That is a huge platform. And since people critically took us seriously after that, we were eligible for grants, awards, the Truer Than Fiction Prize that Chaz and Robert, you know, generously contributed to. That's allowed us to keep making movies. Billy and I just last week got off the road. For the last 2 years straight, we've been on the road filming 2 new features that we'll release in the next 2 years. So once this thing started, we haven't stopped.
We definitely want to hear about the 2 new features, what that's been like the last 2 years.
I'll cover one if you want to cover the other one. In 2009 and 10.
In 2009, we went to South by Southwest, and at the first question and answer session, somebody asked us, "Well, what are you guys doing now?" And we didn't have an answer, and it scared the shit out of us. So we started filming immediately. Yeah, you go ahead.
So we moved to New Orleans, and which is a place that we spent quite a bit of time growing up as well. And we shot there for, again, about 9 months, which is what this was. And we shot, it was a very strange situation looking back on it, but we shot only at night. So we would sleep all day, be up all night, and just got into some wonderful trouble as a result. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what comes of that. We're getting close to a rough cut of that. So I think
hopefully at the end of the year.
Kind of know what it's going to be, but we never really know, what these are going to be until we get pretty far into the editing. It's almost, with a fictional film, it's almost like the reverse. We do all the writing in the end. So we go out and we collect all the, the footage, and then, start doing the writing.
So we'll have some sort of surreal night film from New Orleans next year, and the day that we stopped shooting on that, we got word that we had received a potential source of funding for a future project where they asked us, what do you want to do? And we said we want to shoot a Western. So we've been, for the last year, as of last week, for the last year we've been living on the Texas.
Well, he doesn't quite have it right. All the part of, someone with money asking us what we wanted to do is true. But we were going to go on a sort of a scouting mission to see if...
That's what I told him anyway.
See if this is what we wanted to do. And he was saying, and I was, at the time I was in New Orleans editing the New Orleans thing. And he said, we'll just go for 2 weeks and we'll go scout this place out and see if this is what we want to do. Well, a year later, I'm still there with, just my same duffel bag that I had packed for 2 weeks. So,
but wasn't it worth it?
It was great. It was fun.
So we shot the last year on the Texas-Mexico border with a bunch of, in a very small town. It'll be different than this, but with cattle ranchers and politicians and bar owners, and it'll have more of a thread, but it's definitely a desert western. So we're a little ways off from that one, but we finished shooting it anyway.
I'm sure we can't wait to see both.
Well, you're going to have to.
Okay, well, let me rephrase. We're looking forward to waiting for both of those eagerly. If a couple of filmmakers had come to town when you guys were still living there and they had filmed you, what would your piece of this film have looked like?
Oh, I would have been so excited about that. No, I have no idea. I don't know if I would have told them to get lost or whatever, but as far as like what we were up to when we were growing up
Well,
there,
we were already filming ourselves. So.
Yeah, we already filmed ourselves, so we probably would have told them to, we already got this covered, but... when filming with the police was not our first interaction with the police. So
It was probably better that they didn't. We're in a
sorry,
better place
Mom.
now, so.
Wherever she is.
Yeah, our mother drove 4 hours from Sydney, Ohio today to come spend time with everybody. And my girlfriend flew in from Santa Fe, so we got good people here.
We're going to open to questions in just a minute, but I had one. There was just a quick filmmaker interaction when they met Robbie Pickering out in the lobby, and he immediately was like, "Oh, the music, right?" Like, ugh. So that's a shorthand question between filmmakers. The music's fantastic. How did you deal with the rights issues? Do you have them, the clearances? How is it?
We are obviously a very low-budget operation. It is just the two of us, and we rely on grant money and independent contributions. We don't have that kind of money. So we've had a great festival run, art houses, museums. That's been wonderful. We got to show on PBS, but unfortunately, when Roger did the promo for his new show, he advocated buying, he said, our film was a great buy on DVD. It's not on DVD. You can put it in your queue on Netflix, but we don't have the $30,000 that it would cost to clear it for that kind of distribution.
But it was interesting. It was on Snag. It was available for free on the web, so you didn't need...
Officially a film festival.
Oh, clever.
Yeah,
Interesting.
lots of sneaky loopholes. So as it stands right now, it's a black market film. It's not available commercially unless you know the right people.
And as you're saying, but it would take you, what, $30,000? Do you know what the price it would be?
We have done all the logistics, yeah. We also are with, sort of a boutique distributor. They don't have the capital. We don't have the capital. I have definitely searched it out. I've spoken to the correct entertainment lawyers. I have all of the documentation. I've contacted all the companies. I have the right people to do it, but it would run somewhere between $25,000 and $30,000 to clear the film. We don't have it, and if we did, we'd make a new movie, so.
So even if somebody, let's say somebody in the audience, even if somebody found you afterwards and said, okay, I could help you clear the music.
Where are you? We've been looking for you for so long.
Would you say, no, I want to make a new movie, or would you say, okay, we could do that? You could talk anyway, right?
Oh
you
my
would
God.
talk.
No,
Yeah. Anything else before we go?
Yeah, one more question before we go to the audience. It was driving me crazy watching it, and a lot of the first act of the film is at that county fair, and there's the booth that's like the world's smallest woman. What was in that? Who or what was in that booth? It was driving me crazy.
Smallest woman.
Really? But how small is she?
She's very small.
There you go.
Well, but, I think we figured.
Bill wouldn't go. Bill.
I was terrified. That's... we were standing there, we're thinking the same thing.
Yeah, you want to know, but you also don't want to know.
Right. So I got
wanted
that
to know.
shot of the thing,
No,
but then
you
I was like,
didn't.
Turner, you need to you need to go get the close-up. You know, I don't want to have any part of that.
I didn't film it, no, but I went up and saw her. She doesn't speak English though, so. But she's small. She's definitely small.
Not a misnomer. It was accurate.
No.
That's good to know.
I
Truth in
actually,
advertising.
we had a screening at the Rooftop Film Series in New York, and my girlfriend and I went to Coney Island, and lo and behold, there was the world's smallest woman, right there next to the big Ferris wheel or whatever.
Same one?
Oh yeah, the same truck, everything. She's doing okay.
She's good? You said you popped in and said hi.
Yeah.
Good. All right, are we ready for questions from the audience? All right, anyone who has questions?
Yes, house right?
House right.
House right.
House right. Oh boy. Live on the internet. That is awkward.
Hi, I just wanted to say I love your film.
Thank you.
And there are many reasons why I know you're really talented filmmakers, only one of which is that you didn't tell us who won the football game. Because really, what I love about your film is that it makes us realize how similar we are, and I like movies that tell us how similar we all are. I don't know if you knew at the time that when you picked things you liked, you picked things that just are so relatable. I don't think anybody can't relate to doing a donut in the parking lot in the snow, or trick-or-treating with those little orange pumpkins. And so I do want to ask you who won the football game, but just...
Does everybody want to know? Well, thank you for your comment. I mean, when we approached the film, we were trying to make something that was more, less about Sydney and more, maybe about the collective experience. So, like, we weren't trying to be too specific on what Sydney is, but more so, right?
We filmed the whole game. I mean, we made a
Okay, so
decision,
football.
yeah. We filmed the beginning, however those stories go, we captured it all. It was definitely a conscious decision not to tell that, because maybe it's better not to know,
Whoa, I'm not going to cheat you guys. They got crushed. And I felt so bad for those kids because we spent a whole year with them,
Great guys, very promising guys, too.
Their big moment, on TV and everything, and
Channel
2 was
that
there,
was
man.
my
That's when you
favorite
know
part
it's a
of the
big deal.
speech. Channel 2 is here.
And they got smoked. Smoked.
At some points, I wondered if maybe they played too hard when we were around to look good, and then afterwards, they were kind of burnt out. The second half of the season was not so good, but
It's your fault.
okay.
More questions? Over here?
Yeah, I don't have a specific question, but I do want to say that this has been one of my very favorite films out of the 6 we've watched so far, and part of that is the fact it is not specific, so it's very general. I think a lot of us, especially growing up in the Midwest or central United States, can identify with it all, and it's just very nostalgic to the point where I'm sure you can all identify with the fact when you smell something, it harkens back to a very specific experience for you. And this movie is like smelling fresh cut grass or being at home for Christmas. It's just that sort of evocative of just my own childhood and growing up. And I could probably watch this movie 100 times. I appreciate it.
That's a very kind thing to say, and I think you got it, man.
How has the reaction been in town to the film? How have they reacted?
Well, unfortunately, the movie theater that we grew up going to closed down. So we weren't able to show it in town, but we did go to the most nearby, which was Dayton, Ohio. And we invited everybody from the film down, and people.
Tater, the radio DJ, the young girl Courtney, the football coach Don Luce, the judge, all those folks were there, and afterwards stood up and sort of told their stories. The football coach was excited.
Like the Q&A for that one wasn't really us. It was like everyone asking questions. Like the football question, they were directing that toward the football coach. So it was a great screening, and it was really well received at that screening. Now we had it on, like you said, Snag at some point, and the comment section for that was
it's a little brutal, like everything
not as
else,
stellar.
But again, you have I think where we really have a hard time is when people watch the film trying to either A, seek their own experience, or B, look at the film as if it were some sort of scientific anthropological survey of Sydney, Ohio, and they're let down because that's, you know, it's not what
And
it
I
is.
get that, you know, like I don't know if I would have liked this film, you know, when I was 15 growing up there. I don't know if it, you know, because you have a very specific idea of that place in your mind. So I don't know. So I get it when people don't like it.
Questions?
We're in the aisle a
Oh.
little to your left.
Yes.
What was I was most struck by was the absolute masterful way you edited this film, many different times. One scene in particular was at the end of the football game where it was panning from left to right, and then it switched to winter and panned from right to left. That was brilliant. But could you maybe explain some of that process?
Sure. Thank you, though. I wish you could have seen me while I was editing. I could have heard that from you, and it would have made things a lot better for me. When we shoot, we're very conscious of the edit. So that shot in particular is being shot for that edit, essentially. So we knew, we knew that was gonna happen. But a lot of this edit was trial and error. You know, it's like what looks good next to one another. I had lots of graphs all around my room. Of like where certain people need to fall. Are we putting enough time in between those characters? Are they showing up enough to be relevant? And like all the pieces that we sort of think are like connective tissue, like the radio station, the trains. Like the musical numbers, little chapter marks or whatnot. So, it seems so long ago that I did that, and I wish I, would have kept like a diary almost. But, it was hard. I did a lot of editing in my underwear.
It's interesting because you're talking about it more from like the subjects. But as an experience watching it, what I felt is it's got this kineticism to it all the time. There's always movement without being frenetic, which is just so different. So instead of being like any music video or, life in a day commercial, it's sort of like there's an integrity, but there's always motion. So that, I guess, the way you answered the question, that would just be an intuitive sense of yours rather than a conceptual.
I guess so. I mean, like in the beginning, I'm pulling selects. I reviewed all the footage, like I went through it twice, and I made notes of like what jumped out. So I guess, it's like, you see a shot, and it's like, ooh, the movement there is really good.
Yeah.
Like something's happening there, whether, there's an actual moment, interaction between two people, or maybe just the way the camera's moving or the light's shining. It's like, you just make a note, and it's like, that spoke to me. And so, 6 months into it, when I'm making these edits, and they're not feeling quite right, I would go back to those notes and say, I need to rely on my initial instincts and get back to those. So.
And we had a lot of conversations as well about, is it substantively more important to keep some things in than it is to create a tone and sort of create a tone, poem, and a feeling and have this kinetic movement. And because we chose the latter, so much of what we shot and so many wonderful characters and people that we spent time with do not exist in that film. We have so many great stories and so many hours of just wonderful people, one of which our grandmother, who's in her 80s, still lives there and has a great group of friends who are just old people who sit around telling jokes and drinking all the time. We filmed with them quite a bit, and they were hilarious, but in the end it just didn't befit. She's still angry at us, but it didn't befit the movement of it. So make another film. Okay?
Question from the balcony.
Maybe someday. We got to stop filming new stuff.
Any questions?
Question
Audience?
from the balcony.
From the balcony. All right.
I wonder historically how many people in this theater at the present time have their genetic and historic roots in Urbana and Sydney and Champaign, Ohio, and therefore have a real interest in this film.
Well, I know I was using the facilities a little bit ago, and a man from Dayton, Ohio came up to me and shook hands with me in line. So, and he used to actually, I believe, sell parts to my grandfather. There we go. So yeah, there are some personal connections even in the audience. It's
One of the things I loved about the movie as well was the way the characters interacted or didn't interact with the camera. Some people kind of almost pretended like it wasn't there, and other people talked to you, they directly addressed it, they acted like it was there. Did you ever direct anyone, or did you let the characters determine how much or how little they would interact with you?
Yeah, no direction, but we were okay with, if people wanted to talk to us, that was fine. Now, the people that were always talking to us, we sort of had to, stop filming or, whatever.
you haven't met those people yet.
Yeah. But, there are instances in there where, the camera is being addressed, and that's fine.
We're very open from the get-go, though, about what we're doing and how we do it. And after the first few minutes, people get the hang of it. You wouldn't think so. You'd think it'd be a little bit more obtuse than that. But go in, tell them what we're doing, tell them we don't film interviews, tell them just be like you are, and lo and behold, there they do. So.
One right here.
Yeah, wonderful film. I could ask 100 questions about how you put it together, but I'll just two things stick out at me. One is, in the beginning, with sort of the film images flickering by, there's a lot of caution and warning that you could see, and that sort of set me up to expect something bad to happen. And yet it was largely a positive movie, so I'm kind of wondering why you included those images of warning and caution. And the other thing is, picking up on the everywhere at once angle, can you explain a little bit about how you were able to be at the radio station when the DJ dedicated the song to the couple getting married, and at the ceremony, I guess, or just before the ceremony where they were getting ready? That seemed like either very fortuitous or a lot of planning or something went into that.
Yeah, the opening shot is actually a close-up of a train passing by. And I've had that question before, so maybe we didn't set that up quite right, because maybe it's a little too abstract. But yeah, it is just a close-up of a train going by. And, the caution stuff, that wasn't purposeful, I guess. But the wedding thing was, we just got lucky. We were filming a wedding, and somebody had called in.
We often filmed at two places at once, though, and we still continue to do. There's no sense in having two of us there. It's cumbersome. So we usually split up, divide and conquer, unless it's an event,
Oh, right here in the front.
Right here.
If you're looking at this film from an outsider's point of view, it looks like there's only one cop in town. And his expression never changes, no matter what he's doing, even when he's talking to the guy about the cable. What I love about this film is you're in their lives. You're in their living rooms. You're in the backseat of their car. You're at the table with those ladies. How did you get access to all of this?
We try to be very friendly. And actually, that cop is two cops. So I don't really know what to say about that. They both have crew cuts, and they're both sort of middle-aged Midwestern white guys. But no, we go, and again, for the last 4 years, we haven't stopped doing this. So we go to these people because we have an interest in their lives. And when we find these really captivating people who translate on screen, when you find these people, it's easy to find something, even if they're people who you may not invite home or people that you would want to spend all your time with. There's some sort of genuine affection for these people, and we try to express that, and we try to be genuine with them. And I don't know what kind of good fortune we have, but people have been very receptive to that and have been so generous as to invite us into their lives in a very meaningful way. Again, last week we left Texas, and the night that we left, a 300-pound, 6.5-foot tall steer wrestler started crying. So I think we made an impact on him somehow, and I didn't realize that. We had invested a year of our lives in their lives, and somehow we weren't the only ones affected. So I don't know. I mean, my girlfriend would back me up. I'm not home a lot, so we spend a lot of time with these people. We are so invested in these people's lives that it's hard not to find some sincerity in it.
I guess what you don't see, though, is all the time that we spent with them with the cameras off, going to picnics, going to church, going to sporting events or parties or whatever, and actually becoming forming very solid relationships. like right now, even Turner bringing up our steer wrestling friend, you know, it's like, it makes me kind of emotional. I miss that guy right now, you know?
Well, how
But-
do you decide when to turn the camera on then? When is it on, when is it off?
Well, we established that early on, and we don't stop filming.
Is that what he just said?
Yeah, I know. Well, no, but I guess that is a hard thing to say. I mean, if things get emotional, if there's a genuine moment with people, we do film that. When there is an opportunity for downtime, it's a feeling. I don't know. I mean, how do you relate to people in life? How do you know when your friend needs you to shut up and listen? You know, I mean, how do you? I don't know how to explain that. You know, but there is certainly a lot of downtime that we spend with these people, just trying to make sure that we're not just the geeks from out of town pointing a camera in their lives, because otherwise you don't get those divested moments. You don't get those real sincere experiences. So we film the great majority of the time, but when it presents itself, we try to make sure that we're equally as engaged in personal time.
Balcony?
Okay, sure, yes.
I was just really curious. Did Justin take that other thing?
Yes.
It wasn't for me. How about that? It wasn't for me.
Right here, yes.
Here. I was going to ask you about trust with the people that you're filming, but you've already just answered that question. Do both of you shoot? I get that, Bill, you edit, but you both shoot. There's so many different kinds of camera choices, and I loved all of that, like the stationary camera and then the football players that moved into frame and identified themselves. And just, I think it's one of the most amazing documentaries I've ever seen, and I've seen lots of them and worked on 3. And so I know it's not very easy to do this. Your film feels very, very seamless. And your story reminds me of something from 1988, 1989. There was a guy who was working in LA for a few years, decided, like you were saying, what am I doing here? Turned around and drove home to Baton Rouge. As he was driving home, he had an idea and he started writing a script. That script was Sex, Lies, and Videotape. He took it to Sundance, not even quite finished, Steven Soderbergh, and pretty much busted open the independent world. So, you know, you've just done this kind of with Southwest, too. So good luck. I can't wait to see what else you do.
Thank you.
It's very flattering, and I don't know how to tell you how we communicate or really how we do what we do. There are certainly some technical conversations that we have, but Billy and I have been working together for 29 years. And so there is definitely a certain symbiosis that goes without saying, and we both have a goal, a vision in mind, and we're hell-bent on finding that. So I'm glad you appreciate what we're doing, and I hope you'll buy tickets to the next one.
Yes, okay.
Center in the aisle.
I thought the use of the 50s love ballad was really interesting in this film and works really well. Could you speak a little to that choice?
The Your Precious Love track in the middle. Is that
I
where?
think there were maybe 2 or
Or at the
3, actually. Yeah, one at the end. Was it only one at the end and one in the middle?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Really, we spent a lot of time at the radio station with that gentleman. And we would just take notes anytime, like he would play a song that we kind of, I don't know, liked, I guess. So yeah, we would just.
It was Tater's Sunday Night Surfin' Safari. And it was all hits from the 50s and 60s, so it was a gold mine for...
Yeah, it was great. But yeah, so we just took our cues from him.
It really wasn't until later that I realized how sort of sentimental and spot on that final song is. You know, we placed it because it was right. And then now that I think about it, it's the lyrics are pretty befitting as well, you know. I mean,
Does it get you a
like
little
the lyrics.
emotional?
It gets me a little emotional. I'm a little emotional.
Balcony.
Oh.
Up here?
Yeah, hi. I didn't grow up in small town America. I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, so I don't relate to it on that level. But there was some images and some things that you capture that are sort of like American Gothic for now or something that just encapsulate, I think, the experience of being American right now, like just about everything involving the kids. That one beautiful scene where the dad is reading to his little girl just moved me to tears. It was just so beautiful, and that could be anywhere, you know. And the high school kids, all that testosterone, just, you know, going nuts. And you wonder how those kids are going to do, and are they going to stay, or are they going to get out like you guys did? And since I'm from Chicago, I'm, you know, which side I'm on there. And then the other thing I'm wondering, you guys are good documentarians, and I'm just wondering who your heroes are. I love docs, and I think everyone here probably does. We've seen plenty of them under Roger's careful tutelage. And I'm wondering who your heroes are in documentary making.
Well, like I said, when we were introducing the film, it was really Hoop Dreams that just really got that ball rolling. So, yeah, that film still, you know, just really, I get the most emotional out of anything that I've ever seen, you know, while I watch that film. But as far as doc filmmakers go, you know, Maisel brothers are a huge influence. Frederick Wiseman's a huge influence.
But it's not all doc films.
Yeah, I would say we pull most of our inspiration from like fictional stuff. But
My hero's Bo Jackson.
All right.
Played for the Raiders and the Royals.
Yeah.
Versatile.
Yeah,
He was
versatile.
He was
Very
versatile,
versatile.
man. What were some other aspects of that question, though?
Just who your influences were.
Who are your influences? We take them from all over the place. I mean, it's not even films. There are a lot of musicians who definitely influence what we do. Just people who, and I would say, more than anything, the storytellers that we've met in our lives traveling around, and just people who can really extrapolate, can convey an experience or a feeling or an emotion, impart something to you, whether it's through music or through a film, or, you know, sitting across a bar, or, you know, whatever it is. And that means of conveyance is something that not only inspires us, but is something that we're trying to collect.
I think we're running out of time, but any last questions? One more right here.
Hi, I'm from 44281.
All right.
And my question is, how did you guys escape those accents?
I don't hear them. Are there accents in there? I guess I'm used to them.
Hard to say.
I don't know.
They pop up every once in a while. I'm sure different ones pop up in other times. We also have lived in other places, and I think we met some, where Marie Susan is from Mississippi. We spent a lot of time in Mississippi as kids. We traveled around a lot, so I don't know. I have no idea how to answer that question. But
sorry.
I'm going to be indulgent and just say one thing in closing. I know being able to win the prize at South by Southwest was life-changing for you, but it was also such a big deal for me because it was my first year, 3 years ago, having taken over the festival. And what was so wonderful was that this was a film that was representing the beginning of my regime, and I couldn't have been more proud that it was something so unique and beautifully made, and it really made a huge difference to me. So I haven't been able to thank you publicly for that.
we've never had that conversation, and I can't ever thank you enough.
We would not be here.
And I just, for the both of us, want to say thank you so much for all of you sticking around and listening to us talk and watching our film and being interested. This is the most informed and interesting screening series that we've ever been to, and everybody has just been so kind to us here. And we would definitely like to say something to Ray, our driver, who has been taking us all over town and showing us the glories of Champaign-Urbana. So.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Enjoy the rest of the festival. Thank you, guys. Bill and Turner, great job. Thanks, everyone.